the security emphasis is clearly, it stands out a mile. And I think it's kind of understandable in the sense, if you think about the state of geopolitics today, I mean, it's not just, the United States or the Europeans or the Japanese or South Koreans or Australians that are kind of anxious about security. Obviously, the Chinese are too. And from their point of view, for good reason. I mean, just last week, the Commerce Department announced what I think is just an incredibly kind of broad array of measures designed to decapitate China's semiconductor industry. And so, from a Beijing standpoint, they're very anxious about their narrative, which is that the United States is set out to contain it and to prevent it from taking its proper place in the world. So I kind of exaggerate using a little bit of colorful language, but that's kind of how they see it in Beijing. And that's explains the emphasis on security, also on development. Your correspondent mentioned that, but there wasn't really anything that I found in the speech that actually represents a change or a course correction from where China has been of late.
George, it's interesting that we haven't really had a strong response from Beijing to these new export controls imposed by the U.S., given, as you say, how powerful these export controls around semiconductors actually are. What do you think is brewing within Beijing in terms of a response, and when could we see Beijing respond and retaliate?
Yeah, I think probably the reason that we haven't really heard anything specific is because of the Congress. Everybody is preoccupied with it. There was sort of total focus on Xi Jinping's speech yesterday. The proceedings will go on all week. And I think the Chinese government will probably kind of want to take its time. But I would expect them to have more than rhetoric to offer. So I don't know whether they will target maybe exports of rare earths to US users or consumers, or whether they will target American companies. But I would expect some kind of reaction because I think this takes, it takes American policy certainly up to a whole new level. So I think it would be unusual if there were not some kind of riposte from Beijing.